One of the things that I reckon makes the Camino unique from just a walk is the lessons that we learn while we're walking. And this week, I'm going to share 18 lessons. Don't worry, I'll try not to make the video too long. So 18 lessons from the Camino coming right up. So this week I'm going to be talking about the lessons that I've learned from walking the Camino. And if you're planning your first Camino, I am so envious. The first one is amazing. I'm hoping to do number 4 next year, but we'll see how we go with traveling out of Australia. It's a little bit tricky at the moment. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I think I've learned from walking 3 Caminos so far. But let me just preface it with one thing first. I've usually walked quite a long Camino, and why is that relevant? I think for some of the sort of magic to happen while you're walking a Camino, you've actually got to walk for a while. So for example, the first Camino that my wife Pat joined me on, we walked probably 150 kilometers all up, and she was kind of just getting it by the end. I think it takes me 2 or 3 weeks to really get into the groove on the Camino and really start to get the benefit and the value out of it. So I guess I'm just kind of putting that out there, that there can be advantages, I think, to walking a longer Camino. So 300 or 400 Ks, I wouldn't consider walking much less than that, because it doesn't give me enough time for all the good stuff to happen. And what's the good stuff? So let me run through my 18 Camino lessons. Number 1, if you get a chance, step off the treadmill of life. I was in a situation where I'd been working my butt off for, probably 40 years or something before I went on my first Camino, and the opportunity to just step off that treadmill, have time alone, and I generally walk alone, was just amazing. It's just to recharge yourself, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it was just fantastic. So if you get that chance, the Camino is going to help you with that sort of unplugging and recharging. Number 2, I started to find out what's really important to me. And this kind of brings in this distance component, because it takes you about a week, I find, to get into the groove from a physical sense. So you're a little bit more relaxed and you're coping with the routine and so on the Camino. And then you really sort of start relaxing into it and enjoying the more sort of emotional and spiritual elements of it. And that's when you start thinking. So I find when I'm walking 8-10 hours a day, on my own, that's why I like walking alone. I just think so much, and I talk to myself. And I really start to get a fantastic sense of what's important to me and what my priorities are, what they should be, maybe what they have been and really what they should be. So that's an amazing lesson. Number 3, and this is probably a little bit philosophical, but I realized after a few days walking my first Camino that even small steps taken towards a goal will help you get there. And I'm thinking of if you're walking the Camino Frances and on day 2 or 3, you see that sign outside the little hamlet of Roncesvalles. What does it say? 798 kilometers to Santiago or something. You go, oh no, how am I ever going to do it? The Camino teaches you that big things can be broken down into little things and are far more achievable that way. So just breaking it down into, where am I walking the next hour? Where am I walking until lunchtime? Where am I going to walk to this day? Even those little steps, heading west towards Santiago, they're all going to add up and get you there. So that was my 3rd lesson. Number 4, everyone travels at their own pace. Pick yours. And literally on the Camino, it's very difficult to walk at someone else's pace. If you haven't walked a Camino, it's going to sound a little bit strange, I know. But if you're walking with someone maybe who's taller or shorter and they've got a different stride length, they're walking at a different speed, different fitness, different age, whatever, after a while, it's hard for you to adjust your pace and speed to theirs, and it becomes uncomfortable. You can actually injure yourself by maybe overstretching, trying to keep up with someone or something like that. So you learn very quickly to walk at your own pace. And I think that's very true of life. Don't compare yourself to others around you. You're walking your own Camino of life. So you walk it at your pace. Don't worry how fast or slow other people are walking. Next one, number 5, always have flexibility in your plans for the unexpected. I love planning Caminos, but they're just a rough plan. I know that once I get those shoes on and I hit the trail, all kinds of stuff are going to happen. Good stuff, mildly irritating stuff, and those plans will change. So, and I think that's another great lesson for life. What's that military analogy? The best laid plans will never survive the first shot from the enemy or something. I think there's a version of that people use for Camino, which is, Pilgrim's plan, and then the good Lord rips up your plans or something. So, always have flexibility in your plans. Number 6, sometimes what you expected doesn't eventuate, but even better things happen. So that's kind of related to the planning as well. Don't let little things irritate you or upset you. It could be accommodation not being available that you'd hoped to use, or it could be niggling injuries or something like that. I have found, I would say in almost 100% of cases, where something has gone wrong in my plan, if you like, and I don't look at it in that sense, but maybe things turned out differently than what I thought they would. I found in every single instance it was better. Just think, for example, you were planning on staying in this wonderful albergue you'd heard about, and it was full. Don't stress, don't get upset, find another one. And guess what? You're probably going to meet some amazing people, or you're going to have a fantastic meal. There's always a silver lining, I think, to the clouds on the Camino. So don't be too worried when things don't quite go to plan. Number 7, giving to others is much more rewarding than receiving. I think we know this from birthdays and Christmases and things, don't we? It's such a joy to give gifts to other people and seeing their reaction. It's kind of like that on the Camino as well. It's very much a moving community, and people help each other out, and it's really rewarding, to little things that you can do to help others in their journey. I can remember meeting a lovely lady from Trieste in Italy, and she was starting to get blisters, and I said, hang on, I've got some hiker's wool, it's really good for that. And I gave her some of my hiker's wool, and then I met her about a week later, and she went, that stuff's amazing. I didn't get blisters. Have you got any more? I was like, yeah, there you go. It's great to just help each other out, because it's quite a tough journey, and it's really rewarding to help others. Number 8, never be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Oh, that is so true. And in life, we can be very hesitant to put our hand up and ask for help when we need it. Don't do that on Camino, because everybody is there, whether it be the other pilgrims or the locals, to kind of help you on your journey. And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask, and there's usually someone there who's going to help you out. Number 9, just because someone looks okay, don't assume they are. They may need help. So, you can't really tell looking at some people. I can remember a couple of occasions kind of talking to people who were struggling a bit, and you couldn't tell from the outside. And certainly I've been on the receiving end of that. I've been struggling emotionally maybe, during the Camino, and somebody's come along and lifted my spirits and just turned everything around for me. They probably never realized they did it. So don't assume that just because people look okay, that they are okay. Now, I don't mean you're going to go around prying into how people are feeling, but just be aware that, you're just by being there, sometimes you can help people on their journey. Just be there for them. Number 10, don't judge people on first impressions. This is probably one of the number 1 lessons you learn on Camino. Why particularly on Camino? Because you meet such a variety of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different countries. It really is, a little sort of speed date around the world almost, of all the different people that you get to meet. And people often refer to it like speed dating on steroids. And I don't quite know why this happens, but because you're all kind of walking with the same purpose, you're literally walking down the same trail to the same place, and maybe you're there with quite a sense of purpose, and you recognize that the person that you've just met, you may not see them again. You kind of do get this speed dating on steroids, and people share their stories, and you get these really deep conversations going with people that you've really only just met. It's a very strange and lovely part of the Camino. But did I learn that lesson so many times on my first Camino? Don't judge people by first impressions. I met people that, had I gone on first impressions, maybe I wouldn't have taken the time to spend time with them, to talk with them and so on in normal day-to-day life. But because we're kind of crashed together on the Camino like that, I just met incredible people, and everybody will tell you this who walks on a Camino. So yeah, don't judge people. 11, stuff doesn't matter that much. People do. That was probably one of my biggest changes, I think, when I came back from my first Camino. And if you're walking a longer Camino, 2, 3, 4 weeks, do expect that there could be some changes in you when you come back. That thing about stuff, and I think it's because we're really not carrying much with us. We're stripped down to the bare essentials, the bare necessities. We're just carrying a pack with some spare clothes, and we're not carting around all this material stuff that we might do at home. And you recognize that it's really not important. The people that you're meeting and interacting with are the important element. It's not about stuff, or it's not about the quality of the accommodation or quality of the food necessarily. It's about the people that you meet. And I think that's a very unique aspect of the Camino. And then number 12, kind of linked to that, is that you don't need stuff to be happy. I really learnt that lesson, like on this sort of walking meditation that the Camino is, on my first Camino. And I just realized that I wasn't that into material things. And it's a little bit like, going through life at your own pace, not the pace of others. I just recognise that stuff really isn't important at all. It's about people, it's about health, it's about your relationships. And I came back with a very different attitude towards stuff, totally unmaterialistic, to be honest. People joke at me, I still drive my 21-year-old car because I like it. Why would I want another one? Number 13, if you're prepared to be open and receptive, cool things happen. I've told lots of sort of Camino stories on this channel. Maybe go back and have a look at a couple of those. But don't get so focused on your plan and your deadlines and how fast you're walking and I've got to get to this place by this sort of time. Just chill. And be really open and receptive to whatever happens, and amazing things will happen. It's a hard thing to get your head around if you haven't walked a Camino, but you'll understand it if you're about to go and walk your own. Just lose yourself to it. Don't worry. Just be open. Number 14, life is not meant to be a race. No, it's about enjoying the journey. It's not, trying to be the first one to the finishing post, or, seeing how fast you can run the race of life. The journey itself is not a race. It's to be enjoyed. And don't be sort of too quick to get along your Camino. It's over far too early, far too quickly. Enjoy it. And same analogy for life, isn't it? Enjoy the journey of life. It's not about, I'm trying to achieve this at a certain age, or whatever it might be. Goals are fine, but it's more about the journey than the goals, isn't it? Number 15, slowing down to walk with a friend in need is far more satisfying than trying to keep up with a friend who is too fast for you. So it's a little bit like the sort of giving and receiving, isn't it? Because I walk so slowly on Camino, because I have dodgy knees and I'm a bit overweight, I tend to often walk with people who are a little bit injured because they're walking at my pace. And I've built some amazing friendships and had amazing conversations with those people, because I suppose we'd both slowed down a bit. We were both kind of emotionally supporting each other. And it was just, an extremely rewarding time. Whereas, you'll find other people who are head down and, steaming along. Trying to keep up with them is not fun for someone like me. Okay, number 16. If your plans go down the toilet, it might be for a good reason. So that's a little bit things like the earlier one, isn't it? About sometimes unexpected things happen. So don't hold on to that plan too tightly. There was a lovely phrase somebody used: hold your plan loosely in your hand. It's a little bit of a guide, perhaps. I do my Camino planning really just to work out how long to allow for a particular Camino. So I'm hoping to walk the Via de la Plata next. I mean, I kind of planned it out so I knew how many days to allow. Will I stay in all of those places that are on my plan? Probably not, for a whole variety of reasons. And so if you don't have great expectations of your plan, if you are holding it loosely, if the plan kind of goes off the rails a bit, you're not going to be too upset, are you? And I think that's a really important part of any Camino too, is just kind of letting things unfold. That's much more exciting and interesting. Number 17, positive things happen around you all the time if you look out for them. I had this little sort of mantra when I'm walking Camino, and I kind of say this little. I'm not overly religious. You'll know that if you've been watching this channel. I'm quite spiritual, particularly on Camino, but not sort of religious in a formal, disciplined sense. But I would kind of offer this prayer every morning, giving sort of saying thank you for allowing me to walk the Camino and being able to do it, and that I would be open to learn, whatever I could in that coming day. And I would say that a couple of times through the day. And I think it kind of consciously made me walk with a much more open mind and an open heart. And I was always try to have a very positive attitude to what was happening around me. And I think walking with that sort of attitude really enhances the journey. And I'd just be like a sponge, ready for anything that would crop up. Don't get me wrong, I'm always walking in a very relaxed way and totally chilled, but curious about what was going on and what might happen and stuff like that. So, have that positive attitude, even when things are going wrong. You're tired, you're hurt, you're whatever, look for the positive. There's always some positive stuff. And my last one, 18, conversely, if you look for crap, it's going to find you. I think we all know people in our lives who are a little bit like that. They find fault with everything. They see the negative in everything. Well, they generally lead pretty unhappy lives. And if you're walking a Camino with that attitude, the pillow was uncomfortable and I didn't like the beds and the person in the next bed or room was snoring. If you're going to have that sort of attitude on Camino, you're going to find lots of stuff to dislike. Don't go looking for the crap, look for the positive stuff. So there we go. I rabbited on a bit there. I don't know whether this is going to be of any interest to anyone whatsoever. But I thought I'd just share those sort of insights and those lessons that I've learned from walking a Camino. If you've walked a Camino, you maybe walked a lot more than I have. Maybe share some of the lessons that you've learned as well. And I'm sure some of them would be very much the same, like not judging people too quickly and, just being chilled out and seeing what unfolds, all those sorts of things. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't yet walked your Camino, I'm very, very jealous. Buen Camino. See you next week.